How you guys doing? What's going on? I got a video you guys need to look at. Do you guys remember that movie Coming to America? I mean, it is legendary, iconic in the black community. And you remember the lead girl? Do you guys know she didn't get paid hardly nothing for that movie? It's so iconic, but she ain't get paid hardly nothing. And honey, the life that she lived, even though we loved her in the movie, but it seemed like, honey, when I tell you she had a hard not life, harder than any movie role. And you know they said that over 2,000 people like really wanted to audition for that movie, and she's the only one that got it. But honey, when I tell you, you need to hear the story. The story. And did you know she was with that guy from Kid and Play? The dark skinned one from Kid and Play back in the day. Don't you know the movies a kid? Yeah, honey. But honey, that didn't last either, honey. It's a lot of stuff that's going on. So I came across this video and it tells so many stories about her. So I just want to say thank you all for your likes and your shares and your subscriptions. I really appreciate it. Let's keep it up. So make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. And let's react to this. Let's see what's really going on. I love when you guys comment. So continue the comments, okay?
Got you. Speaking of love interest, you go on to marry actress Shari Headley
Right.
in '93. Have a child together. You guys didn't stay married very long.
In 2001, Christopher Martin was arrested and brought into court for the non-payment of child support for his and Headley's 7-year-old son. According to the New York Post, in 2001, Headley shared that at the time she had only accumulated $45,000 total for her role in Coming to America.
Remember Lisa McDowell from Coming to America? Don't gasp when you see her today, because the woman behind that iconic role, Shari Headley, has lived a life filled with twists most fans never knew.
Born in Queens, New York, and the youngest of 4 children,
Alongside fame came heartbreak, lawsuits, and financial setbacks.
which means she was averaging $3,500 a year for her part in the multi-million-dollar film.
Let's get into her off-screen story that's just as dramatic and somewhat darker than any role she ever played. Shari Headley was born on July 15th, 1964, in Queens, New York. The youngest of 4 children, she grew up in a family rooted in discipline and tradition. Her father, a dental technician, had high hopes for her. He dreamed of his daughter becoming a doctor, and for a time, it seemed like Shari would follow that path. She enrolled in college as a pre-medical student, carefully mapping out a future in the medical field. But even then, the stage was quietly calling her. She minored in drama, performing in school plays, and impressed classmates with her natural charm and delivery. Still, nobody could have guessed how quickly her life would take a sharp turn.
Headley's mother said that Shari has always been a good person, but didn't really stand out as a kid.
The break came not from medicine, but from her older sister. Without telling her, Shari's sister mailed her photograph to Ford Models, one of the most prestigious agencies in New York. The gamble paid off. Ford called her in, and before she even realized what was happening, Shari Headley was a finalist in Eileen Ford's famous Face of the 80s campaign. That one decision by her sister changed everything. Suddenly, Shari was on magazine covers and photo shoots. She posed for Glamour, Mademoiselle, and more, quickly becoming a recognizable face in the modeling industry. For a girl who had once thought about lab coats and medical charts, the flash of the camera was a world apart.
Until she dropped out of Queens College and signed with the Ford Modeling Agency. There, she began doing commercials for L'Oreal, Johnson's Baby Oil.
But with modeling came another unexpected pivot, which was acting. She began auditioning for television roles, hoping to expand her career beyond photo shoots. The transition wasn't easy. Acting was competitive, often brutal, and for every audition she landed, there were dozens more she didn't. But Headley had a spark that casting directors couldn't ignore. In 1985, she finally made her small screen debut. The show? The Cosby Show, then one of the biggest hits on television. Shari appeared in an episode, marking the official start of her acting career.
1985, Headley made her acting debut in The Cosby Show. A writer heard us talking and told Bill about us. He had us do these new characters twice live on the rehearsals.
From there, she kept pushing forward, securing minor roles in Miami Vice, Quantum Leap, and Matlock. Each credit was a stepping stone, small but steady, building her resume. Behind the scenes, though, this new life wasn't glamorous. Shari was young, still learning, and trying to balance survival with dreams. But her dedication stood out. She wasn't just another model-turned-actress. She was determined to make acting her real career, and within just a few years, she would land the role that defined her forever. Lisa McDowell, the fast food heiress who captured Eddie Murphy's heart in Coming to America. But before that life-changing moment came, Shari Headley had already rewritten her destiny. From a father's dream of medicine to a sister's bold submission of a photograph, she had gone from Queens to the runways, and now to television screens. The pieces were all in place. What nobody knew was that Hollywood was about to put her in the spotlight for better and for worse. By 1987, Shari Headley's career was still in its early stages. She was booking small roles, but nothing that would make her a household name. Then came the opportunity of a lifetime, a role in Eddie Murphy's next big comedy. The film was called Coming to America, and Murphy, at the height of his fame, was not just starring, but also co-writing and producing.
Good morning, my neighbors! Thank you! Yes! Yes! You too!
Headley auditioned for the role of Lisa McDowell, the independent, intelligent daughter of a Queens fast food king. Hollywood veterans, trained actresses, and rising stars all competed for the part, but Shari's charm, poise, and warmth won her the role. She wasn't just beautiful. She carried a natural grace that fit perfectly with Murphy's Prince Akeem.
At the age of 24, she would secure what would become her most recognizable role as Lisa McDowell in Coming to America.
Filming began in 1987. On screen, Lisa McDowell was the dream woman, kind, confident, and strong-willed. But behind the scenes, things weren't always smooth. According to crew members and later interviews, Eddie Murphy maintained a tight control over the production. Some co-stars felt overshadowed, while others claimed the atmosphere could be tense at times. Shari, still relatively new to Hollywood, had to navigate those dynamics carefully. She later admitted in interviews that stepping into a production of that size with Murphy, Arsenio Hall, and veteran actors was intimidating. Yet, despite her nerves, she delivered a performance that not only stood up against Murphy's comedic genius, but gave the film its emotional heart.
Would you like to dance?
It's someone to care, someone to understand, to be loved.
When Coming to America was released in 1988, it was an instant cultural phenomenon. The film grossed nearly $300 million worldwide and became one of Murphy's defining hits. For Shari, it was life-changing. Practically overnight, she went from small TV parts to being the face of one of the decade's biggest comedies. But with success came controversy. Not long after the film's release, a legal battle emerged that shook Hollywood. Art Buchwald, a writer and humorist, sued Paramount Pictures, claiming the studio had stolen his idea for the film. The case dragged out for years, pulling Coming to America into headlines not just for its comedy, but for courtroom drama. Paramount eventually had to pay Buchwald and his team a settlement, and the case became a landmark in Hollywood for how writers are credited and how studios profit.
Buchwald versus Paramount Pictures was initially a third-rate contract case, if you remember Watergate.
Through all of this, Shari's career should have exploded. But Hollywood has a history of typecasting. And for Shari, being the beautiful love interest in a hit comedy was both a blessing and a trap. Offers came, but not at the same level as Eddie Murphy, or even Arsenio Hall. While her performance was praised, she wasn't immediately given the same opportunities to carry films or lead big-budget projects. Still, her portrayal of Lisa McDowell remained iconic. Fans loved her. The chemistry between her and Murphy was undeniable, and for many, she became the ultimate dream girl of late 80s cinema. But Shari herself knew that one big role didn't guarantee stability in Hollywood. She would have to fight for her next chapters, both professionally and personally. And soon, those chapters would take her into television soap operas, new leading roles, and also some of her most painful public battles. After the global success of Coming to America, many fans expected Shari Headley to immediately land a string of major film roles. But Hollywood didn't always open doors for black actresses in the late 80s and early 90s. Instead of blockbuster films, Shari found her next big opportunity on television. In 1991, she joined the cast of ABC's long-running daytime soap opera, All My Children. Playing the character Mimi Reed, a determined police officer, Shari brought a new level of depth and visibility to the show. Soap operas weren't just television, they were cultural institutions. Millions tuned in daily, and characters often became household names. For Shari, this was a chance to build a steady career and prove her versatility beyond being Lisa McDowell.
In 1991, she was cast as Detective Mimi Reed in All My Children.
Her performance on All My Children was widely praised, and fans embraced her instantly. Mimi Reed became a central character, and Shari remained on the show through much of the early 90s. For a black actress to have such a prominent role in a daytime soap at that time was significant. Representation was limited, and Shari's presence mattered. But while her professional life was stabilizing, her personal life was making headlines too. In 1993, Shari Headley married Christopher Martin, best known as Play, from the iconic hip-hop duo Kid and Play. The two had met in the entertainment circle and quickly became one of the most talked-about couples of the decade. Both were young, famous, and rising in their respective industries. In 1994, the couple welcomed a son, Skylar Martin. Fans often saw Shari balancing her soap opera schedule with family life, something she later admitted was not easy. Between long filming hours and the pressures of being married to a musician and actor, life at home could be intense.
Got you. Speaking of love interest, you go on to marry actress Shari Headley.
Right.
In 93, have a child together. You guys didn't stay married very long.
By the late 90s, cracks in the marriage began to surface. Some reports suggested that the pair struggled with the pressures of fame, financial disputes, and different career trajectories. Christopher Martin was still tied to the hip-hop industry, while Shari was focused on television and raising their son. The differences added strain to their relationship.
That it was never an issue of me cheating on her or calling her out of her name or, beating anything like that. It was just Christopher Martin wasn't Christopher Martin yet.
In 1995, Shari left All My Children. She later admitted that part of her decision was influenced by wanting to spend more time with her family. Unfortunately, by 1997, her marriage to Christopher Martin had ended in divorce. Shari won custody of their son, but the split was far from easy. The divorce also came with financial battles that would haunt her for years. Some fans believe that this period marked one of the lowest points in Shari's personal life. She had tasted stardom in Hollywood, built a steady career on television, but was now forced to restart in both her professional and personal life. The internet later resurfaced old reports of the custody battle, highlighting just how much strain Shari was under as a single mother trying to keep her career alive. Still, Shari Headley was far from done. After her divorce, she began taking on guest roles in TV series, appearing in New York Undercover, Walker, Texas Ranger, and The Bold and the Beautiful. Each appearance was proof that she wasn't going to fade away, even if the spotlight was smaller than before. The 90s were a turbulent decade for Shari, filled with career highs, public attention, but also heartbreak and financial strain. Yet, as fans would see, she continued pushing forward, determined to remain relevant in an industry that often forgets its stars once the cameras stopped rolling. By the late 90s and early 2000s, Shari Headley's career looked very different from the bright promise of her coming to America breakout. While she was still working, the roles were smaller, shorter-lived, and often overlooked by mainstream audiences. The momentum she had gained in the late 80s seemed to stall. Her show, 413 Hope Street, where she starred alongside Richard Roundtree, was one example.
I'll do all the work.
Angel, I gotta get up early tomorrow.
The drama tackled issues like drug abuse and gang violence, and critics praised its honesty. But the show lasted only 10 episodes before it was abruptly canceled. For Shari, it was another painful reminder of how unstable Hollywood could be. Even when she delivered strong performances, the industry didn't always reward consistency. At the same time, her personal life was unraveling. After her divorce from Christopher Martin, Shari had custody of their son, Skylar. But Martin soon made headlines of his own, not for music, but for legal trouble. Court records revealed that he had fallen behind on child support payments, leading to multiple disputes between him and Shari. The tabloids seized on the story, painting a picture of a bitter custody battle and financial strain.
I was really feeling tormented because nothing's working. The car ain't doing it for me.
According to reports, Christopher Martin at one point owed tens of thousands in unpaid support. Some fans at the time speculated that the stress of these battles weighed heavily on Shari, distracting her from her career. In interviews, Shari rarely spoke about the details, but she did acknowledge how difficult it was to raise her son largely on her own while trying to keep her acting career alive. Single motherhood is hard enough, but in Hollywood, where roles are scarce and competition is brutal, the challenge was even greater. The struggles didn't stop there. Shari's mother fell ill around this same period, and she took on the role of caregiver. Balancing auditions, short-lived acting gigs, child support disputes, and family caregiving pushed her to the brink. Fans online have speculated that during these years, Shari nearly left Hollywood altogether. Some even suggest that she considered returning to a medical-related career path, the one she had studied before acting. While that was never confirmed, what was clear is that her screen time became limited. Despite the hardships, Shari still found ways to stay active. She appeared in guest spots on shows like The District, House MD, and Castle. These were smaller roles, often a single episode, but they kept her in the game. In 2004, she briefly returned to daytime soaps with Guiding Light. Again, her talent shined, but the roles never lasted long enough to restore her earlier momentum. The financial struggles linked to her divorce continued to haunt her. Some reports suggested that she had to live modestly, turning down opportunities outside of acting just to maintain focus on her career. The internet later dug up documents showing how intense the child support case had become. Fans debated online whether Christopher Martin had failed her, or whether both were caught in an unfortunate cycle of legal battles. By the mid-2000s, Shari Headley's story had shifted from being Hollywood's next big star to that of a fighter, someone who was surviving, not thriving. The same industry that once introduced her as Lisa McDowell, the dream princess opposite Eddie Murphy, now seemed to have moved on. But Shari's resilience would keep her going. While others might have faded away completely, she never gave up on acting. And slowly, opportunities began to resurface, not as big as her blockbuster past, but steady enough to rebuild her place in the industry. While Shari Headley's Hollywood career slowed down, she found another calling: giving back. Away from the cameras, she began dedicating her time to community service, especially focusing on young girls and teenagers. One story she often shares is about visiting a middle school and meeting a troubled girl. When Shari simply hugged her, the student broke down in tears. That moment revealed how much impact she could have by showing kindness and empathy even outside of Hollywood.
Reality shows where it seems cool that we're fighting with one another. Being cute? Bullying isn't cute.
By the early 2000s, Shari was a familiar face at youth programs and women's empowerment events. She made a point of sharing her own struggles, how she had once lived in her car, how she had navigated single motherhood, and how she leaned on faith and family to keep going. Her openness made her relatable, especially to young people who saw only the glamorous Lisa McDowell on screen. Her outreach was recognized on a national level. In 2013, Shari Headley received the President's Volunteer Service Award, honoring her years of dedication to community causes. It was a milestone that showed how much she had grown beyond Hollywood. She was now a role model for dedication and service. At the same time, Shari's acting career slowly began to rebuild. She returned to soap operas like The Bold and the Beautiful, playing Dr. Angie Hubbard, and took roles in series such as The Haves and The Have-Nots. These projects didn't carry the blockbuster fame of Coming to America, but they brought her back into the public eye and allowed her to showcase her versatility as an actress. Fans online often commented on how gracefully she had aged, with many saying she looked nearly the same as she did back in 1988. Social media helped reignite interest in her career, with clips of Lisa McDowell circulating online and new fans discovering her work. Beyond acting, Shari often credited her faith as her anchor. In interviews, she said things like, "At one point, I lived in my car. I've put God first, and that's been what's kept me thriving." Her connection to the Wayans family also became public. She revealed how the comedy family had supported her during some of her hardest years. For fans, this was another reminder that Hollywood, despite its cutthroat reputation, still had networks of real support behind the scenes. By the mid-2000s, Shari was balancing acting gigs with public speaking. She traveled to schools, conferences, and women's groups, always sharing her story of dedication. She emphasized not fame or wealth, but perseverance. That dual identity, actress and activist, gave her a renewed sense of purpose. Shari Headley had gone from nearly disappearing from Hollywood to becoming both an active performer and a respected community leader. She wasn't just Lisa McDowell anymore. She was Shari Headley, an actress, a mother, a caregiver, and a mentor. But her biggest surprise comeback was yet to come.
Known about this.
I did not know what to do. I was only trying to do what is right.
For our family or for Zamunda?
In 2021, more than 3 decades after her iconic role, she would return to the big screen alongside Eddie Murphy, reprising the part that made her a star. In 2021, more than 30 years after Coming to America first hit theaters, Shari Headley made her long-awaited return as Lisa McDowell in the sequel Coming to America. Fans who grew up watching her in the 1988 original were shocked not only at her comeback, but also at how little she seemed to have aged. Social media exploded with comments like, "She looks exactly the same, and Lisa McDowell hasn't aged a day." The sequel, starring Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall, once again brought back a wave of nostalgia. For Shari, it was more than just revisiting an old character. It was validation. Proof that her role was not just a side note in comedy history, but a cultural icon.
I'm gonna need you to be honest with me. No more surprises.
I promise. No more surprises, my sweet. Never again shall there be another surprise.
Her scenes in the sequel carried a quiet power. Lisa, now Queen of Zamunda, was no longer just the love interest. She was a mature woman who had built a life and a family, commanding respect. Critics noted that while the film leaned heavily on comedy, Shari brought balance, grounding it with warmth and dignity. For longtime fans, seeing her back on screen was emotional. Many remembered how she had struggled in the years after the first film, facing canceled projects, divorce battles, and financial strain. Now, she was standing tall, once again in the global spotlight. The release of Coming to America also sparked renewed discussion of the controversies surrounding the first film. Viewers revisited old interviews about Eddie Murphy's clashes with director John Landis, the lawsuit filed by Art Buchwald over the script, and even the bizarre claims from a supposed African prince. Shari, however, was never directly tied to those controversies. She had remained professional, her reputation intact through it all. What stood out most in the aftermath of the sequel was how fans celebrated her dedication. In an industry notorious for sidelining women, especially black actresses, once they reach a certain age, Shari's return was almost revolutionary. She showed that she was still relevant, still talented, and still beloved. As fans look back at her journey, one truth becomes clear. Shari Headley is much more than Lisa McDowell. She is a woman who lived through the highs of blockbuster success and the lows of career droughts, who fought legal battles and raised a son as a single mother, who cared for her family while still pursuing her craft. And yet, despite all of that, when audiences see her on screen, it feels like no time has passed. Lisa McDowell remains etched in pop culture history, and Shari Headley's comeback only reinforced that legacy. Today, when people ask, "Remember Lisa McDowell from Coming to America?" the answer comes with awe. Yes, and she's still